It is Memorial Day weekend, and you're going to hear a lot of stories from military veterans, young and not so young. Also stories about the men and women who've died fighting for our country. Bravery and patriotism, loyalty and sacrifice. I have a story for you that involves a helicopter crash in Iraq. It's more about the people who were on board, what put them there, what else they could have been, and why they were there together that day. This is their story. This is Chopper Down. There is no such thing as a safe job in a combat zone, only degrees of dangerous. And some military units, by their nature, are exposed to the enemy more often than not. A U.S. Marine Corps Casualty Evacuation, or CASEVAC team, is one of those units. They fly a tough-as-nails 40-year-old helicopter into a place where most people want to get away from. Right into combat. Where bullets and rockets fly, people bleed and sometimes die. Their job sounds simple: get hurt people out. And they almost always have to fight their way to wounded patients. Pendleton, California, a sprawling U.S. Marine Corps base a world away from Iraq's desert. It's where Lieutenant Colonel Sean Killeen commands a squadron called the Purple Foxes. They fly the CH-46.
This is where we'll load the patients and take care of them. And this is the Ford F-150 pickup truck of the fleet. We'll take troops into combat, we'll carry cargo, we'll carry the wounded. You get on our aircraft with a pulse, you have a 95% chance of survival. We don't care if you're American, Iraqi, or the enemy. We're going to do our damnedest to save your life.
Did you save enemy?
Yes.
Insurgents?
Insurgents.
Could be Al-Qaeda?
Yes.
You'd put him in that helicopter and you'd get him out of there?
Without hesitation.
For one of his crews, CASEVAC was their calling. Purple Fox pilot Captain Jennifer Harris always wanted to fly.
Hi everyone, it's me. Merry Christmas. I guess I should wave.
She grew up in Swampscott, Massachusetts, on the water.
Sailing was kind of in her blood, so that's why we decided to take her to Annapolis to see what that's like.
She chose the Naval Academy over West Point, was drawn to the Marines, and eventually helicopters.
They have very limited billets as far as marine aviation goes. It's very selective. You have to be at the top of your class from Annapolis. I have a photo here of my roommate, Captain Jennifer Harris.
Navy Lieutenant Rosie Goshinsky looked to Harris for inspiration.
She wanted to become a Marine, and specifically, she wanted to become a Marine Corps pilot with all of her heart and soul.
And she achieved both.
She did.
In Iraq, Harris was a den mother of sorts, a 3-tour veteran and mentored younger pilots, or sticks as they're called.
I do love flying. I've had a great experience this deployment with being one of the instructors in the squadron and kind of having to take a leadership role.
Harris was always one of the first to reach her aircraft.
They would have to sprint across the tarmac about 100 yards, and I was told that they would always race to see who could get there the fastest, and Jen, time and time again, would beat them out.
And February 7th was no different. At Al Taqaddum Air Base,
looks like they're going to make a run to Ramadi.
Between Fallujah and Ramadi, the bell rang.
CASEVAC! When the bell rings, you go full bore.
An urgent CASEVAC call.
An urgent is loss of life, limb, or eyesight within the hour if you don't get that person to medical facilities.
Harris was that day's air mission coordinator. She handpicked her crew for Morphine 1-2, the first helicopter on the line. This crew was tight. Harris bragged to Killeen about her first lieutenant, Jared Landacre. She said he was that good.
He was her protege. She's the one who identified him to me and said, "Sir, we've got a rising star. You need to fly with this guy and see what he's got."
Landacre spent his entire life overcoming odds. Doctors telling his parents
it was highly likely that Jared would have been mentally challenged, approximately 85% likely that he was going to be mentally retarded. So we took our chances with him, and and he did well.
Well enough to earn a physics degree, join the Marines, go on to flight school. 5'6" in his socks. He could barely see over the offensive line as a high school quarterback.
He had a short man syndrome. He had a bad attitude, you know. If you said he couldn't do it, he'd prove you wrong.
He had a swagger, a cockiness to him, but he backed it up, you know, with his accomplishments, and he just had that drive.
Landaker always called himself a patriot.
9/11 did something to him. It irritated him that they had the ability to come over and do this on his ground and everything. And from then on, he did whatever he had to do to get into an air contract.
But he wasn't a fighter. And when he opted for helicopters over other aircraft, his opinion was, I'll take Marines in, but I want to take Marines out.
Crew Chief Sergeant Travis Pfister called Harris a buddy.
She's a lot like him. He would dish it out, and she would have a comeback for everything.
Grab your partner, Dosey, no! Other Marines called him Lunchbox, describing his appetite for food and for life.
His personality was just so huge that people knew who he was.
His wife, Jessica Pfister, also a Marine, recruited her husband back into the Marines after taking a civilian detour to work for Boeing.
He loved flying, and when he was out of the military for that year, he was not a happy fellow. He wanted to be helping his fellow Marines, and that's why he went back in.
Pfister was a tail gunner.
You put your best guys back there because the enemy waits until you're passed before they shoot at you.
Pfister trained Sergeant James Tijerina, TJ, to his friends on the flight line.
I think a call of duty is what he has had all his life. But he would tell me over and over again, we're doing a good thing, Mom. We're bringing democracy to Iraq. And I said, okay, all right.
KGO radio reporter Greg Jarrett was embedded with the Purple Foxes in Iraq. He interviewed Tijerina in 2005.
It wasn't that long ago that James was a student at Katy High School. Now he's a crew chief on a CH-46 in Iraq, and he has experienced his first mortar attack.
Yeah, it's a reality check, you know, but you're always thinking about it, you know, anytime. I mean, it's what you signed up for, and I guess it's what you have to expect.
Corporal Tommy Saba joined the Marines later in life at age 26, but he had a helicopter fascination early on.
He was about 7 years old, and we took him to a park there that had a children's ride helicopters, and you would pull the stick up and it would raise the helicopter and that. And my mother-in-law had a fit because Tommy kept bringing the helicopter up.
Based in Okinawa and part of the storied Flying Tigers Squadron, Saba was picked to crew a helicopter that ferried former Presidents Bush and Clinton through the tsunami-ravaged areas of Indonesia.
He liked to help, and that's the kind of person he was.
He extended his service just to do a tour in Iraq. This fight was why he joined the Marines, called it a privilege.
Tom was flying on his helicopter and said, "Sir, I can't believe we get paid for doing this." You know, they were seeing such beautiful scenery.
Saba had trained with Harris,
which is probably why he volunteered to go up that day on that plane.
Navy hospital corpsmen joined the Marines on CASEVAC missions, and there were 2 docks on this one. Petty Officer First Class Gilbert Minjarez Jr. joined the Navy when he was 18. Pursued medicine because his grandmother was a nurse.
He always wanted to help people, and he would see how Grandma would make people feel better and everything, and that's what he wanted to do.
A doting husband and father to son Gilbert III and daughter newborn Miranda.
My grandson would always ask him, "Where are you going, Daddy?" And he would say, "I'm going to work." And this time when he left, he said, "I'm going to go and fight the bad men."
On his first tour in Iraq, he gave salsa lessons to the troops.
He was the life of the party. He used to love to dance salsa. They used to call him the Salsa King.
Petty Officer Third Class Manuel Manny Ruiz had been on countless CASEVAC missions. This was nothing new.
He loved the Navy. He loved what he did, helping people.
This was his second tour. He wore a Superman t-shirt under his flight suit, knew he was saving people, would yell, "Game on," when a call came.
He said one time a little girl he gave her a lollipop, and she just was all hugging on him and everything, and it made him feel good. because he helped save her father.
This tour, he was working alongside his girlfriend, another field medic, Brandy Jenkins.
She's over there too, and it's her first tour, so they look out for each other.
Harris requested a shift change on the 7th. She was looking ahead to her new assignment, teaching ROTC at George Washington University.
It was literally her last flight. She was supposed to be still on night duty. She wanted to do day so she could see the people, see the ground.
Did you try and say, look, you're almost out of here. Why do you want to do this last mission?
I did argue with her, but with everything she did for the squadron and being an Italian-Scotch mix, you wouldn't win an argument with her.
This call, one urgent and 2 priority patients in Anbar province. An overcast sky.
Maybe about 1.25 miles viz.
And Morphine 1-2 is skirting below the cloud cover at 1,500 feet. They pick up the 3 wounded and transport them to a field hospital in Balad. The crew heads out, but is called back to deliver desperately needed blood before flying to Fallujah without the cover of night.
People aboard a U.S. Marine Corps helicopter today were killed when their Sea Knight crashed in Anbar province. The military says it is still investigating the cause of the crash.
I had my laptop, and the first thing that came up was the CH-46 in flames going down.
That morning when I came home, I saw the helicopter going down. But I just said, you know what, that can't be my son. He just got there.
First thing that comes to mind, where did it go down? What was the type of helicopter? And you get that pit in your stomach, and you just have that gut feeling. I mean, because you know where your child is in Iraq. You know the province. You know the unit. You know the type of helicopter.
The type, CH-46. The name, Morphine 1-2. The crew on board, gone.
I decided to check CNN.com. I saw it, and I broke out. I said, that's my son's helicopter. I knew it. I knew it.
2 Marines and a chaplain came to the door, and at that time you know what they're there for. So they announced, and we knew then it was Jared, that he wasn't coming home.
I talked to him right before I got on that flight, and I told him don't go. And I've never told him don't go, but I said, you're gonna get shot down tonight, baby, don't go. And he just laughed. He would always say, baby, the crew chief never dies. And I'd say, Travis, yes I do, I watch the news. Oh, you watch too much TV. And he said he loved me, and he would send me an email to let me know he got back safe. So I never got the email.
The cause of the crash was initially thought to be mechanical failure.
As the investigation has continued, it's now been determined that was not in fact the case, that in fact it was downed by hostile fire.
From a surface-to-air missile. Video of that missile and the crash surfaced on the internet. Insurgents claimed responsibility.
Sergeant Fisher was a tail gunner. You can see from the video that what I would estimate happened is he saw the missile shoot, called for a brake turn. You see the aircraft do a brake turn, but the missile still tracked on him.
Harris fought to maintain the aircraft.
From the moment that she got hit to the moment she hit the ground, how much time passed?
58 seconds.
How did she respond in those 58 seconds?
Exactly how I'd want her to. That entire crew flew a textbook profile. I've watched that tape over and over again to see what they could have done differently, and they did everything right. They just ran out of time.
What did she say?
She said, mayday, mayday, mayday. Morphine 1-2 is on fire, making an emergency landing northwest of Karma.
All that without losing her cool?
Like you and I conversing in a very calm and deliberate manner.
Controlled?
Controlled and calm. Cool as could be.
What does that say?
Grace under pressure. It speaks volumes. Sorry. It speaks volumes of the character.
Marines later found the wreckage, the bodies of the crew members, still on board.
So they really went down fighting, didn't they?
They went down fighting, and they went down trying to save each other. That entire crew was an all-star crew, front and back. And they're all heroes.
One of JR's friends was part of the investigation team that went in and to recover the aircraft and the individuals. He said that he found JR with a fire extinguisher in his hands. So I knew that he was still battling, fighting to the very end. And it comforted me to know that at least he was trying.
Former First Lady Nancy Reagan on The President Who Loved Her. Larry King Thursday.
7 military professionals, 7 sons, daughters, husbands, fathers, and friends. They went to war in Iraq for a reason they believed in, and they died there. Their stories don't end here. They continue in 7 hometowns where those who knew them and those who did not paid their respects, showed their appreciation, and mourned.
I want her story told for generations. I tell my kids about her, somebody that they should want to become like, and talk about how brave and courageous she was, just how beautiful of a person she was inside, and how big of a heart she had. She kept her eyes on heaven, and she knew that things done down here on this earth for other people are the things that matter in her life, and that's why she flew. She flew so she could save others.
As much as we kind of complain a little bit about having to fly 5 or 6 hours multiple nights in a row, it's also kind of a good feeling to know that you are helping people out and hopefully maybe saving a couple lives.
That makes me feel proud that he had that compassion and was willing to put his life on the line. One thing he told me before he left was, if I don't come back, do not dishonor me. This is something I've chosen. As hard as it hurts, this was his choice. He wasn't drafted. He was a smart young man. He had plenty of options. He chose that, so I will honor his name till I die.
Passion, full of passion. He lived hard, he worked hard, he loved hard. And he took care of me. He's my angel now. I'm very lucky. I can't wait to see him again. He's always here. He's still cracking jokes. I'll see him again real soon.
Travis went out in true Travis fashion. He went out with a bang, he went out as a hero, and he wouldn't have wanted it any other way.
He knew he wanted to serve his country. He felt he had to do it. He felt that was his calling. He just loved saving lives, helping people. He was always striving to be the best, and he was going to be the best at anything he tried out for. JR never had his eyes shut. He didn't wear blinders. He took life in, and he loved life. I'm very proud of him. I'm glad he succeeded in meeting his dreams. It's just sad that he's not here to do more.
His feeling was that anybody that attacks us, he wanted to do something about, and if the country was at war, he wanted to be a part of that. He bled red, white, and blue, and I think that's Tommy.
He had a wonderful smile, and everybody told us that. He had a good heart, and everyone knew it. They knew that when Tom was with them, that things were going to go right. Isn't that a nice legacy to leave behind? I wish we had him instead. But it's good to have a legacy where you're loved and people know it.
Just all along the route, there was people alongside with flags. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful tribute. He didn't want to be stuck working in a hospital. He wanted to be in the field where the action is. Even if the war wasn't going on, he would want to be in the field somewhere working. You know, not in a building. That's why he did this with the Marines.
Touched a lot of people and he's very special. He's just a great man and he's my hero and I look up to him. I'll never forget him and he's my inspiration.
My son was an outgoing guy. He loved life. He loved it. Everything that we have here is going to be for them so they can know when they grow up who their father was. He's always with me, always with me. And here's proof.